Hello everyone, this is Marissa with Linguabilities coming at you today with some more information about how to say different sounds in American English. Our first video looking at these different sounds, we talked about R, which is kind of a tricky sound. So today we're going to do another sound that often gives children and people learning American English as a second language trouble, which is L. So I wanted to show you first a little picture of what this looks like. So we're looking here at this L, and this is kind of like a X-ray side view of your head, if you will. Now I'm going to point out a couple landmarks just so that we're on the same page here. We have your lips, followed by your teeth. Coming back here, the yellow part at the top is your hard palate, that's the part that you typically feel with your tongue. And then moving further back, the pink part is your velum or your soft palate. This is what allows air to come up into your nose. And so if you ever laugh and have milk shoot out your nose, that's what's at fault there. So you can see with the L sound that the soft palate is going to be raised so that we don't have air coming out the nose. You can feel if you put your fingers under your nose if any air is coming through. So if you say you'll feel the air come through versus there's no air coming out of the nose. And then this is also a voiced sound. So we will feel the buzz in our throat versus a voiceless sound like S. You'll feel no buzz. So what's really important about L is the tongue placement. This is the tongue right here, this big wiggly muscle. It's very strong and flexible. And what it's doing is raising up and pointing to the alveolar ridge, which is this little bump right here, back behind the teeth. Now you can find your own alveolar ridge either using your tongue or your finger, hopefully it's clean. Just behind your teeth, you'll feel a little hill. It goes whoop right behind the teeth. That's your alveolar ridge. And it's a really important structure for a lot of speech sounds, a lot of consonants, especially in American English. So what you want to do is essentially bring that tongue up and just touch the alveolar ridge. It is actually going to be touching it. Now, I realized when I started teaching L that I was actually bringing my tongue a little more forward interdentally between my teeth. So what we ideally want to see is lion, right behind the teeth. I was going lion. You see, it sounds pretty similar. It's really it's very close. So if you have anybody that you're working with who is doing that interdentally, while it's not the ideal position, you're still going to get the sound that you want. So don't be too picky about that. L is a little bit tricky for kids learning and can also be tricky for adults learning English as a second language. Typically, L comes into our sound repertoire around age 4. So it's a little earlier than R, but there are still some things that can make it difficult called phonological processes. And essentially, these are patterns of substitutions that can remain even after a sound may have meant to come in. So let's say that L is supposed to come in at around age 4, if you're a standard English learner. But there are some processes, these patterns, like consonant assimilation, which typically goes away around age 3. That's where we have the same sound being used when it shouldn't be. So for example, lello. They're saying the L, but they're duplicating that L in a place that it shouldn't be, where we should have yellow, we're getting lello. So that could be a pattern that could continue, even though we're getting the L, maybe past age 3, that's still happening. You can also get gliding, liquid gliding, which is what happens very commonly when we have the W for R or the W for L. So instead of saying yellow, they'll say yellow with a W. Or sometimes we get a y sound for L. So we might get yayo instead of yellow. So if you're teaching this L sound, it's really important that you start with a good foundation, making sure that we can first say it just in isolation, and hold that. And then if you get that, then you want to go to words. You want to try in the beginning, middle, and end. So in the beginning, you might have a word like lemon or lion, making sure that you get that. Then you want to have the medial or middle position of words. So you might have elbow Then in the end, you might have a word like pale, where the L is at the end. So you get that then foundation of having the word level, and then you can start to go into phrases and sentences. So you might have a very short phrase like lucky lion or silly elbow. And then once you get those phrases, you can start going into sentences. I see a lion. What an interesting elbow. A full pale. And then you start going into conversation and oral reading. So that's kind of the hierarchy of how you do it. Now, there may be different schools of thoughts depending on the accent coach or the speech therapist that you have, in what order they would do that, or the sounds that they're picking. But in general, that's the strategy that we like to use. So definitely check with your speech therapist to see, one, is L an appropriate sound for me or my child? Is it age appropriate, or is it something that I'm actually having difficulty pronouncing as an English second language speaker? Then two, they can talk to you about the best way to approach training yourself or training with them on how to get that L with the right production. They'll help train your ears so that you hear the difference between L and what you might have been saying previously, and then work you through the hierarchy of saying it all the way up to conversational speech. So I hope this was helpful. If you liked it, please remember to like and subscribe. You can click that little bell notification to get notifications that we have a new video, which come out about every week. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much. Bye.